Happy Friday, everybody. Hey. I am so happy and joyful that the sun is still shining here in Chicago. And although we are all streaming live together from our respective spaces, I am happy that in the Midwest, the sun is shining. CCE is a global organization, and I'm Sadia, the director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. As some of you know, and some of you may discover, the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship was developed out of 2112, the largest creative co-working space and creative incubator in the world. And we are just so fortunate and so thankful to have generous grant sponsorship from the Coleman Foundation, as Arts Alliance Illinois is our fiscal sponsor. So for those of you who know 2112, we are the nonprofit of 2112. And for that reason, we provide education, resources, opportunities for funding, and we work with state and local government to make sure that we're helping to create a workforce pipeline in the creative industries and creative economy. So before we get started with today's incredible guest, I feel so honored and so humbled to have among us. I want to give you an idea of what we're coming up with for next Friday. So really excited that, everybody right now is figuring out how to make whatever they were doing work, how to pivot, change it to something else so that you can work. And we're going to be talking to individuals who have lived many lifetimes and are lengthening their legacy. So we're talking to folks in their 50s who've made a pivot, who've shifted. In fact, here's an idea. The Wall Street Journal put out an article that most people average 7 careers in a lifetime. I'm asking you, which one are you on? So look forward to catching up with us next Friday when we are joined with legendary guests who have decided to shift and make a pivot. So today we are talking about curating in 2020. And I don't even know what to say. I'm so excited because there's only one and only Juan Teague, who we are so fortunate to have join us today. Let's take a look at the magic she creates. Wow, Juan B. Teague. She is an ambitious founder of Juan Teague LLC, a premier full-service logistics and planning company based here in Chicago. Through her company, she has produced countless events for which you just saw that fantastic video. She's worked with Common, Kanye West, Dwayne Wade, Columbia Records, and Atlantic Records, E1 Music. Partnered with Nickelodeon to produce a worldwide day of play through the Wade's World Foundation. And she's created the COVID-19 Venue Protocol Task Force for the state of Illinois. Juan Teague. Woo! I mean, I mean, the video, I was like,
I know, I miss it.
But, here's what I have to say. We cannot forget this is the year of Chicago music. That's when I met you, right?
Yes.
When we were doing the release with Madam Bear Lightfoot. Juan Teague was running stuff. Talk to us. Tell us more about you. What's going on?
As many of us in the industry, like everyone, I was stunned because the one thing about our industry was always the industry that brought everything back together from 9/11 to hurricanes to world hunger events. And we were always the ones to bring back the love, the happiness. And never has our industry ever been impacted in this way. That's why we didn't really have a huge unemployment. So as many, like with so many of us, I was shocked. I was going through not really depression, but didn't know what to do, because when you're a person that has always been in control, to have something to take all the control you felt handicapped. So, I mean, really, honestly, I went from, okay, I can't do any events anymore. And then when we were looking at the industry, I was like, nobody is looking at us. Everybody, everything is important. We knew the essential workers were important. But I think one of the things that they forgot is, even though our industry is fun and laughter, the livelihoods that it affected, I think, was missing. And so pretty much what I've been up to up until recently was really just trying to make sure we not only get back to doing events, but find funding for us to make, that's how you were able to get the PUA. And then now there's a new grant that's out called Disruption of Business that includes DJs and singers, sound and lighting techs. Any worker that's a 1099 gig worker, they can now actually go for that grant that you can sign up for it until the end of October.
Well, that's really great, right? In fact, I'm going to make sure that we get that information so we can push it out on our socials as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, one of the things that I think is so crucial that you've had a hand in,
Mm-hmm.
Not only, one of the things that I think it's always good to sort of touch base on is the fact that you were behind the scenes, right? There
Mm-hmm.
are so many people who are behind the scenes making the magic happen. And yet, to your point, when everything stopped, everybody had to realign mentally. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
had to find a way to take that stillness and hopefully innovate in a way. And what I love is that you created and worked with your partner in creating the COVID task force to make sure that venues are safe. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So basically, Megan, she's a friend from the industry. We work in hotels together. Yeah. I know that I can talk to anyone, but I am not the best with writing everything. I talk like I write sometimes. And so literally when the mayor and the governor announced phase 3, events industry was nowhere in those talks. And I literally said, how are we going to get back to work? And I'm like, I got to figure out a way. And so literally 20 minutes to 30 minutes later, Megan called me and she was like, we need to do something. Yes. And I promise you, we got on the phone with some people. We didn't understand what lobbying meant, but we found out, because I didn't want to be locked up. So we found out you can lobby for yourself.
Okay.
And, you can lobby for yourself. And so we were lobbying for our industry. And so we needed a platform, even though I knew a lot of people in the mayor's office and governor's office. Yeah. Our industry also doesn't have an association because we never really had unemployment and needed resources. So we were at a disadvantage than the Illinois Hotel Association, Illinois Restaurant Association. We didn't know how many people were unemployed. We didn't know how much money was affected. we had to get all this data in a quick amount of time. And so we were able to, Megan was a part of this organization called the National Association of Catering and Events. Yeah. So she went and talked to them and said, look, we got to let Juan become a member because she can help get us into the places, but we have the platform because we needed a platform. I just couldn't go to the mayor's office and say, hey, I'm Juan. I need to open up events.
Right.
So we were able to get some really, really stakeholders in the events industry, from like the Tom Keyholes of the world to venues. We got sound and lighting people. So it was like from limos service to sound and lighting to every DJs. We got a collaboration of stakeholders, put them in a letter, and then we were able to present it to the mayor and the governor's office. And so they ended up hearing us. And the one thing that was great was that we were 6 to 7 weeks behind everybody else. Wow. And so they all apologized because they just looked at us as fun. And they were like, we're so sorry. We missed. I said, our numbers aren't even in the unemployment rate because we didn't even know how to get unemployment. I was reaching out people who had, worked with me. They didn't know how to get food. They didn't know how to get any kind of money. They weren't able to get any unemployment. It was bad, because these people went from working full year to nothing. So one of my things was just like, okay, how do we get food? So we started working with the Ortegas who do the Puerto Rican festival, just finding out different people who can get food and send food.
Basics, right?
Yeah, just basics. And so then we worked with a lot of the brands, like different brands like Tito's. They started doing meals at restaurants. So a lot of stuff just started moving into play. But then, so what we did was we got together and we ended up, after I met with the governor and mayor, they actually allowed on the city, because the city's protocols and the mitigation for the states are two different kind of things.
Two different, yep.
Because that's why you see them all different. America say this, but the governor says this. But so what we ended up doing, we had to create two. And we wanted to expand it because, even though we can open the event venue, well, then how does the producer or the event planner, what can they do to make sure they create safety for an attendee? What about the sound and the audio? How do you sanitize your equipment? The performer, how far should people be away from us so we make sure we're not contaminated? How far should we be on our stage plot? So we went there. How should a limo or car service, how should they sanitize? So we ended up creating committees within our task force to put every mitigation for every aspect of events. So then what we ended up doing is that I ended up partnering with, we partnered with the Illinois Hotel Association. We talked to Sam Toya and Catherine from the restaurant and Christine from the Restaurant Association. And then we got with, the biggest thing that we got support from was the unions. Because stagehands, riggers, they're not working. So, and luckily, with One and Only, we produced the festival for Chicago Federation of Labor. So when they saw that, I was reaching out saying, hey, I need to make sure we have everybody's in sync. So it just all of a sudden started playing. And before we knew it, we only had 3 weeks to get all of this done before the mayor announces the phase 4. So we literally got done and we were able to, that's why you now see events and everything happening now, because we were able to get events added to the mitigation and then put on the website. So it's on the city website on how to effectively do events safely in the city of Chicago and in the state.
Well, I thank you. We all thank you. I'm just saying, and this is so beautiful. I mean, I was in a conversation yesterday with the great Mart Atkins, right? Mm-hmm. And it was for the Cutting Edge Festival that was taking place in New Orleans, which 2112 participates every year, but now everything had to be remote. And one of the things that he said is, you can't tell me don't do anything. You can't do anything. There is something that you can do. Right. And what you and Megan figured out to do literally impacts the ability for everybody else to do something. Yeah. And create and to come back. So thank you. And speaking of DJs, yes, I mean, one of the reasons why the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship exists is because Scott Fetters had this great idea, which was that in the creative industries, there's really no pipeline into how you get into these jobs, right? Mm-hmm. I started out as a PA in music production, then on commercials, right? And then concert productions. listen, the day they let me in the room when they were counting the money, I have never smelled money before till this. But my point is that it's all relationship building. So there's no real pathway, but for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, that's part of what we're working to create. Mm-hmm. So partnering with individuals like you who know how to partner with the city, who know how to partner with the state, and who know how to pull things together so that everybody can rise. I'm just saying, it's a beautiful thing. And when people say, well, I'm just one person. Yeah, one person can do a lot.
A lot.
Honey, that idea, whatever it is, don't let it just sit. Get it out there.
You can make change. Everybody, I mean, you really, this whole situation showed me that relationships throughout the years is what helped us maneuver. Is because our records and what we've done in the industry for the community, for the city of Chicago, for the state. Yeah. This was actually, you know how you want to use your aid. This is when I wanted to use my card. Like, hey, we need to get back to work.
That's it. Well, can you hang tight with us for a bit? Sure. Speaking of DJs and all of what Chicago has to offer in the city of Chicago, let's talk about David Chavez. I mean, David Chavez is a festival curator and event organizer in the city of Chicago. He's worked in the industry for over 15 years, presenting artists from all over the globe in venues and theaters, as well as festivals across Chicago. Throughout his career, he's helped broaden the audience for international music in this city and debuted many first-time artists, which helped launch their music programs and careers. He curates the Chicago World Music Festival, Millennium Park Music Series, Taste of Chicago, Don't Get Me Hungry, founder of the Chicago House Music Festival, and in 2020, he's programmed the Millennium Park at Home series and Virtual World Music Festival in Chicago. David, thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, listen, it's my pleasure. So, we just finished talking to Juan about how venues are now, at least there's a protocol based on some of what she and Megan put together. Talk to us a little bit about you and what's going on with, the city. And I got to compliment you on that color, though. You're like giving me tropical vibes.
Well, if you can't go to the beach, you got to bring the beach to you, right?
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. So what's going on? Tell us a little bit about you and what you've got working right now.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I've been a curator for the city of Chicago for a couple of years now. And, this year really like everyone else just shook everything and turned it upside down. And so, we struggled to figure out how to move forward. Our budgets, pretty much evaporated. It's a small percentage of the hotel motel tax. And so when no one's staying in hotels, there's no budget that comes to us. And so we had to really sort of figure out what our impact was going to be with what we had. And so we did a lot of, virtual programs like everyone. And we saw it as a way to support our local artist base. All of our festivals, all of our series this year were virtual, and we, did the best we could to support local artists, give them a platform to engage with their audiences. Our World Music Festival had a lot of commission projects and special projects, so they got a chance to actually, besides just perform, expand on their creativity and put some new things together. And so we're really happy about that. And the Millennium Park at Home series, I saw it as a great opportunity to start to highlight some of the emerging artists that, we may not always be able to fit into some of our programming. And so it was, interesting to sort of see, who's out there and to learn about who's emerging and get connected and connect them with the audience that might be interested to follow their career as well. So it's been interesting. It's been hard. It's been a learning experience. We sort of thrown into the fire in terms of figuring out how to do this. I didn't think that I would end up being, apart from a curator, a video producer either. But this is what time it is, and so we do what we can.
That's right. This is the time, and this is what time it is. We've all had to find our inner producer. we're very thankful to have your friend and our new programming and community manager for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, Daniel Crane, and Nick here, right? And I'm just like, now, Daniel's operating the, the StreamYard. He's doing not only curating and making it happen, but he's learning, and we all have had to find our way to produce in order to get to our audience. So one of the things that I think it's worth noting, because this came up before, is that for the city of Chicago, that hotel and motel tax was generously supported with travel. And so when travel stopped, so did the money that flowed into the budget for, would it be for DCASE, right?
Yeah, so it's it all goes into the city sort of budget, and then we get a certain allocation from that. So not all of it goes to us, but some portion of it does. And it's not like it comes, it's not like it goes into the bank, at the beginning of the year for the year. It's sort of staggered. And so we had to, cancel all of our festivals in person. In some instances, we had to really try and postpone things, but all in all, we did our best to honor our deposits for a lot of the artists we had contracts with, and postpone those things to a future date. So that was really, something that we were, as a department, really adamant about making sure that we can try and do for artists, because when you're self-employed, when you're working as an artist and your livelihood is taken out from under you, you have no other options. You may not qualify for unemployment. At the time, you didn't qualify for unemployment if you weren't a working artist. Just your whole life changes, right, in the blink of an eye. And so apart from doing that, we did a lot of different things. We did some Instagram sets with DJs and live performers for the mayor on her page for the Arts for Illinois relief fund. We've done all kinds of things, self-recorded programs that we incorporated into our virtual things when we couldn't actually, when we're still in quarantine. Our last thing that we did was really like hiring a production company using the protocols actually that Juan was talking about.
Nice.
To like go into venues and community centers and record live performances, and sort of make more of a program out of it. So I've kind of seen the whole spectrum of this thing, in 6 months. So it's been interesting for sure.
It's really been interesting. Just shortly before February, I had just I joined. We created CCE in February, and it was like in March, all of a sudden we're all at home. But DCASE launched out of the theater that I built called the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. DCASE launched Invest Southwest. The DCASE team was a major part of the curation of that event, and that's my personal baby. So all of a sudden, it was like all of those of us who have relationships to venues, my friends over at the Jazz Showcase, over at Winters, over at Andy's, Talia Hall, like all of a sudden I'm like, can we create a video and have everybody come in and learn how to virtually stream live? Now everybody's picking it up because it's like, you don't want to see any of these venues suffer. And so now thankfully, most of the venues have some form of a hybrid where there may be some live performance streaming out to a larger audience with maybe a selected socially distanced few under 50 in the venue. So everybody's trying to find their way. But to your point, the artists were suffering. The actual performers needed ways to be able to make sure that they could take care of themselves. I think out of so much of this, individuals will be considering, how do we ensure, put some insurance in there for if things happen again. I think it just sort of like jolted everybody into understanding that, we have to have other ways of making sure that we're protected. And ways that we can make money. One of the things that I heard is that you're a DJ yourself. Wait, what was it? What's your DJ handle?
Sound Culture.
Sound Culture. Okay, I didn't want to get it wrong. So talk to me a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about Future Roots?
Sure. Yeah. So I, I wear many hats as a lot of us do in the creative industry, right? And so, I've been DJing, for probably the last, I don't know, almost 20 years since 2000. More as a hobby, but I've had some residencies in the city. I've had some, I've played festivals and a lot of the clubs around town, and different. I have different phases that I've gone through. It's mostly rooted in house music, but I've gone into and played like a lot of international remix music also, and tropical bass, and
Mm.
started the record label with a collective of Latinx artists that I helped put together called Future Roots. And so we've been doing some curation and some, it's a mix of video artists, DJs, producers, writers. And so one of the things we did was put together a remix compilation for Tony Allen, who's an Afrobeat legendary drummer, who did a project with Chicago Afrobeat Project. And so we did a remix project and we put out on our own label a vinyl release. Came out last April. And working on a few other things music wise, but that's sort of like outside of my DCase work, of course. It's something that keeps me sane, as a creative person. And but I think before working at DCase, and being a DJ and being an independent producer, gave me a lot of insight into like what it takes to actually work in the industry, right? As an independent, both artist and producer, and working out at different venues. And, that hustle is real. And I don't think people understand that, independent artists and independent people have to work twice as hard to make, just as much, if not less, than other people who work, in more customary jobs or more standardized kind of like situations. And so I really felt it, for them, going through this. And, I'm fortunate to have been with the city for a little while. But still, like that pain was felt on my end, just because I remember what that was like, and so, I'm always trying to do as much as I can for the emerging artists, and for, I share information about different grant opportunities, and, and try and support as much as I can.
And we're thankful for that. I think one of the reasons why I wanted you to talk a little bit about your, DJing and Future Roots is because, as creative artists, creative entrepreneurs, we wear many hats. And what I love about, the type of role that you have is that as a DJ and as a culture curator, you also are sitting in a city, an official position. And it helps other artists know that there are all sorts of levels to this, right? When we talked and on, I was speaking a little bit about how, there's no real pipeline. We were asked at the State of Illinois building, we were having a conversation among creative businesses. Julio Rodriguez asked us if there was a supply chain, in the creative industries, and we're all like, no, there's no supply chain. But if there were, right, like, how would that impact the direction or the trajectory of a creative going into a field that they had no idea existed? So I really love that you shared a little bit about your passion, what you're passionate about, because even in this official position, you can still feel what the artist is going through. So as decisions are being made and things are, being created, you still have that touch point, which is really fantastic. Speaking of touch points, we want to have you hang back too. I'm going to bring everybody up together at the end, but I want to talk to Lee Farmer. DJs have a lot of not just clout, but they impact a lot of people's lives. This DJ, record producer, and marketing executive, listen, in that order, is Lee Farmer, and that's how he describes himself. Lee came up with the 80s Chicago music scene. he came up with it. I'm not going to say he came up with the 80s, but he came up during the 80s, you know, and he was the guy carrying the record boxes when the DJs are coming in. Let's see, Mike Hitman, Wilson, Steve Silk, Hurley, Farley, Jack Master, Funk, and Julian Jumpin' Perez. DJ of the Year for the Chicago and R&B Soul Awards. He was a co-founder of the Soul Sector DJs, the technical producer for VH1's Master of the Mix television show. He collaborated with Mariano's grocery chain to create Virtual Live at Mariano's, and he's created the virtual series Studio Show Live for the Illinois Lottery and created the popular DJ series Sundown Sounds on Twitch. Lee, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
Good, because I'm feeling the mic, the voice. Listen, you're doing a lot, and I've heard some of my friends have performed at the Mariano's series. So thank you for curating that. Tell us a little bit about what made you think about that, and even before that, I want to note something. Lee, a little bird told me. Let's see. That you were in the branch of the Navy. Is that, did I write that down?
I was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. You were in the Navy in Desert Storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Desert Storm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I want to put that in context because one, I want to honor and thank you for your service. That's number one. And to think of that and to think of all that we just described, I've got to imagine that there's a certain amount of discipline that falls in line with all that you're able to create. So sorry, I just needed to bring that up. But tell us a little bit about you and this Mariano series, and then we'll kind of track through some of the other things that you're working on with Sundown.
Okay, cool. To address the military part, I think musicians, creators, DJs, they are some of the most disciplined people on the planet, because you have to have this discipline to push forward on ideas that you come up with out of the thin air. And so most people don't really understand how much work and just really push that takes to do that. So I just wanted to address that. Just a little bit of what I'm been doing. As we all know, coronavirus hit the creative community like a sledgehammer, and it has been really tough for a lot of people. A lot of people went into depression, a lot of people froze, a lot of people just kind of, pulled their hair out during this whole time. And for me, when everything hit, I just jumped into action. I own a marketing company, I own an AV company, and obviously I'm a DJ. So this thing hit all of my income streams at once. And I went from, going into 2020, looking at this being my best year ever, to having everything shut down all at once. So I got together with my team, and we just started on the marketing side. We just started coming up with ideas for digital activations, figuring out ways that we can incorporate artists and DJs and musicians into these things. And we just started creating decks, started pitching clients, started pushing things out. We started getting some bites. And so we were able to go into doing, the difference is there's a lot of, there's a big money gap in between, doing digital things and doing physical things. But we were able to stay alive and stay afloat and keep things going. So that was kind of, we just kind of jumped into action when everyone was kind of flailing around a little bit.
Yep.
We jumped into action. And, I have a lot of very good friends who are artists, musicians, visual artists, creatives, and they were all struggling. And I was just really trying to figure out, okay, how do I help all of my friends? How do I figure out a way to put money in their pockets and at least, they can pay their phone bill, so they can make calls, to try to get other business. They might be able to pay rent. They might be able to, do something with some of this money that I can get them. So that was kind of my primary thought, and, Juan said it very well earlier, that there was no plan for the arts community. You know what I mean? Everyone else was collecting unemployment. There were all these grants that were happening. All the cities were looking at, oh, how do we save these industries? And our industry was completely left out. So,
yeah, I want to point out that one of our viewers said that's right. I mean, that's literally what was going on.
That's actually my business partner in the TTB Collective. That's Freddie Baez. And when I'm talking about we jumped into action, he was right there with me, and we were jumping into action together to make this happen. So yeah, it was a really tough scenario, but we put in a lot of work, and we got some bites, and we were able to create a couple of different digital series that are still going right now. We were able to bring in.
Let me ask you, with Mariano's, because when I heard that series was going on, I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's in the supermarket. Eric Roberson performed. Talk to me a little. I mean, did you call Mariano's? And the reason why I'm asking this, Lee, is because when people have ideas, sometimes they don't know which way to go, right? They're like, well, who do I make the first call to? And as we spoke about relationships being key, just kind of curious about that, because it's a unique thing, but it's as far as I know, it took off. Like, I kept hearing more and more events that were coming up, and
yeah, so it's been good. So Mariano's has an amazing director of marketing who by the name of Amanda Puck.
Sure, Amanda Puck. Okay,
right, exactly. Yeah. And so Amanda's a good friend. I was doing actually prior to COVID, I started a pilot program to bring, different musicians and bands into the stores. And we started at the West Loop store doing a pilot. Because Mariano's traditionally had, the piano player.
Right.
And,
grab your glass of wine while you shop.
Right, exactly. So
right.
they already had a music program. But they kind of wanted to step it up. So Amanda and I talked. She was like, well, let's try this. Let's do a pilot. Nice. And so we started a pilot at the West Loop store where we brought in all these incredible artists. It was really amazing. And then COVID hit. Right. And shut everything down. Yeah. So Amanda and I were talking, and I was like, why don't we just do this virtually? And she was like, let's make it happen. And so we, I just went into action, started calling up artists. And at the time, everyone was on lockdown. Yeah. So no one could really go anywhere. Everyone was kind of in their house. So I started out with just people who were like singer-songwriter, musicians that could do a show by themselves. Right. Yep. So that's kind of how we started, like one person entertaining. And we had some really, really amazing artists do that. And then the lockdown restrictions got a little less. And so we were able to get a couple people in the room together. And so we continued, and, we're still continuing. I've had a lot of amazing artists that have been, just really cool and really down to like be part of this. Yeah. And then when the restrictions eased a little bit more, still there were no clubs open, there were no bars open. But Mariano's has space, and within the guidelines, we were able to bring entertainment into the stores again. So what we did was we created opportunities at 6 different stores, and so now every Friday we have DJs and bands in 6 different stores, and we have a featured act on the virtual side as well.
Fantastic! That's fantastic. And I would imagine that that's generating some traffic for Mariano's, which makes them happier, because people start listening, they start getting hungry, they're pumping out the smell of chicken. I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? Really, seriously, like if you go on a Friday to one of the Mariano's that we have music, people are literally dancing through the aisles with their carts. You know what I mean? It's they're shopping and they're like, hey, so, it's a really good thing. It's uplifting people's spirits. You know, all the musicians are like, I'm so happy that I actually get to play and perform in front of some kind of people.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's been really uplifting, and it's you know, and it's putting money in a bunch of artists and musicians' pockets as well. So
yeah, so here's what I mean. Today we were talking about, you know, how everything we're curating, you guys are curating these incredible opportunities. I want to touch on one other thing before we all just have a powwow out there together. I was told that Sundown Sounds has a relationship with Twitch. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
okay,
And maybe
so
tell people what Twitch is first.
right. So obviously Twitch is it started off as a video game platform. It's where video gamers could kind of get on live and play video games together. And then artists started using it as a platform because it was a very intuitive platform for artists. And then DJs jumped on as well. And so that's kind of what Twitch is. But we actually don't have a relationship with Twitch. I would love to have a relationship with Twitch.
Well, I just called it out to the universe. Let's make that happen.
Exactly. We've just been using it as a platform because Twitch, a lot of platforms like Facebook and Instagram, in the middle, you know, and it's really counterintuitive to what they really should be doing. But in the middle of the pandemic, when artists and DJs and performers were trying to go onto Facebook and Instagram, they started cutting them off because they didn't want to spend the money on paying royalties that they should be paying.
Right.
So Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, separately from Facebook and Instagram, still allows DJs to go on and play their sets live. Although they recently started muting the sets afterwards, so you can't watch them afterwards, but at least they still allow DJs to go on and play sets and, you know, and uplift people and bring happiness to people that need it, you know, and that's really what's going on. So Sundown Sounds is something that really my team, the TCG, and we have another branch of our company called 42nd Parallel, which is dedicated to marketing towards Asian consumers, right? So TCG is a multicultural agency owned by myself and Freddie Baez. And then we brought in a very smart and industrious person, Nancy Shen, who is headed up the 42nd Parallel division. So it was really Nancy and the 42nd Parallel team that kind of came up with the concept for Sundown Sounds, along with my partner, Freddie. And I thought it was a great idea. And I was like, all right, let's implement this. And, you know, Twitch is a perfect platform. And so, yeah, we've had DJs from all over the world. We've had like Helen Ting from Hong Kong. Louis Vega did it. We've had all of just, you know, all these really cool DJs. And, you know, it's kind of pushing the culture forward. And Diageo has been a sponsor. We've had Codigo Tequila as a sponsor. So, yeah, it's been really good. It's been really cool.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, I think, you know, one thing that I can say that every one of the guests today has basically threaded kind of the same line, is that everybody, all of you, Lee Farmer, Juan Teague, David Chavez, you all created an opportunity for other people to do the business that they need to succeed. I mean, so I really want us to have a conversation right now together around what do you see going forward, you know, with where we are. Where are we? We're like stage 4. Is it stage 5? I've lost track.
Oops, stage 5 is when this vaccination is released. So we're still in stage 4. But the good thing is that the mayor and the governor allowed phases within the phase. So phase 4 can be a phase 4.2, 4.3. So it'll be things within that. Yeah. So
okay. Which will allow us hopefully to have some more movement based on, I'm
so
sure whether.
Yeah. So basically what's going on now is we're looking at the numbers, and you're looking at one from the state and one from the city. So as if the numbers steady or go down, decline, then that's when then they'll take off the cap of like 50 people, but then it'll go more into occupancy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can speak to like what I'm doing now is I teamed up with live events, and I'm also working with NEVA, which is the National Independent Venue Association, along with Civil, which is the Chicago Individual Venue League. And pretty much we're working to just figure out, like, some venues are going to stay closed, but then the other venues and event spaces, we're literally, because everything is moving indoors, is coming up with a way to make sure we're celebrating safe. So we created like a hashtag saying celebrate safe. I was actually able for the first time to do an event this past Sunday to actually take all of the protocols and the mitigations that we put together. And I was able to utilize that. And there were some people that attended that hadn't been out since March. So to get reviews that they felt safe, and to see that we can actually do things safely, because the thing is right now, we have to learn to live with COVID. We can't fight it. We have to live with it, and it shouldn't stop us from living, but you can do things safely. So I'm doing that. And then I'm doing a couple of virtual series, but I don't want to do too much virtual because I don't want corporate sponsors to think they can just do everything virtual and not do anything live anymore. So I'm very careful on how much of that I do.
You know, you speak to that. It's important. We've been really at 2112 trying to ease people back into the space, right? Because as a co-working incubator, you guys, this is something that the Tribune's put an article out last week called "The Theory of Random Collisions." In that when you're working in an incubator or a space where you have all of these multiple resources, that you could bump into the one thing that you need. And I literally, that same day that the article came out, we're creating right now, Comcast has generously awarded us sponsorship to build a content creator studio so that independent businesses can come in and film a little video. One video was pretty impactful. Everybody should have one, right? Because it the narrative of who you are before you even step in the room. So we're building that right now. And I was thinking, gosh, you know, we need a time lapse camera in there capturing all of the movement in the construction, because we did that with a theater that I built. And I literally bumped into this guy, Tyler Furlon, in the kitchen, who I was like, I'm trying to get my coffee, but he wasn't moving too far. And I was like, oh, we got to socially distance. Well, he actually had a time lapse camera in there, and he was actually manipulating it. And I was like, what? You know, so it is important that we kind of encourage safely people to start going back into their spaces. We've come up with, like I mentioned earlier, a hybrid version, which I think, you know, what Lee was talking about and what David was mentioning that the city is doing in terms of creating spaces where you can have some virtual and some in person. And I think that we might have to live with that for a little bit. But I think we do need to, people are really having a hard time not engaging. And artists, we know, are sensitive. You know, we need to have that physical interaction engagement.
Yeah, I just did the one I did on Sunday. I mean, to give people some best practices is that what we did is before the event, we anyone that bought more than one ticket, because we were able to do 50 on one floor, 50 on the other floor. The people that bought two to three tickets, we then emailed them and said, can you send us the name and the contact of each one of your guests? Because what you want to do is make sure if there is a breakout, you can provide CDC with contact tracing. So it's not a long process. Then what we did is before the event, we emailed everyone our COVID disclaimer, basically saying you're walking in here. And so we let them read it before, but we let them sign it in front of us, our own copy, so that we can make sure it wasn't manipulated.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then what we did is when they signed it, we had a pen for each person, so they kept that pen. And then what we did is in the emails, we told them respect people's COVID space. If people just want to fist bump them. If they want to go high from a distance, you know. So we were giving people best practices, and we basically said, when you're drinking, we mean literally, you drink, put your mask back on. It's not take your mask off until you're done with the drink, because we put stickers where people could stand. And and then it was like, if you were by someone that you don't know, when you're taking that drink, walk away from that person. Be respectful of their space. And literally everything, even our models for the fashion show, they wore, we found a little clear one. So they either wore clear and the guys wore the black mask, and it worked very well. And so we did that live for 100 people, but then we're filming it where we'll do it virtual in November.
Beautiful.
So that just gives someone some ideas on how to do it.
Yeah. David or Lee, you have anything you want to jump in with?
Yeah, I mean, from the city standpoint, like, we're not sure, we have to obviously keep close watch on what the restrictions are, right? For in-person gatherings. And, most of our things are outdoors. So that helps a lot, but still, the square footage of space and the social distancing has to be taken into account. So like, if we did go into a scenario where we started to do some in-person live programming, it would have to be very limited in terms of capacity. And, things like Millennium Park, obviously, the capacity is like 11,000, even, reduced capacity could still accommodate a nice amount of audience, as long as like everyone is adhering to the rules. Right. And I think that's the main thing, is that like, as much as you can tell people, like, these are the things you should be doing, you have to keep reminding them, because they don't always follow the rules or forget, and then, when you mix in alcohol too, it's like people get real friendly and loose, and they forget that there's COVID out there. But I think we'll start to see a lot of this sort of fusion of in-person and virtual. And, to be honest, the virtual thing, while I think like I'm not a fan of it, just because like it'll never replace the in-person artist experience, right? And the audience experience. It does have an effect of reaching a larger audience that may not be be able to attend, right? So you have a global reach that's a potential for it, but so there's like good things and bad things to look forward to. And if we all behave,
Right.
this winter,
Right.
we could go back to
Bring
normal
that.
next year. Just behave.
Yeah. Just behave. I heard Millennium Park couldn't hold your house event. It was too many. It was too successful, huh?
It was, we had upwards of, I think, like between 60 and 80,000 people at one of them, and that's right now, that's a COVID trap, right? Like, you can't have that happening.
Right. We all
Well,
have.
if everybody wore their masks appropriately, it probably wouldn't be.
Right. Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
There was no COVID outbreaks during the protesting. That's all I can say. The numbers went down.
That's true.
That's all I can say.
Point.
Yes, I use that in my presentation.
Very true.
I want that presentation. I mean, we gotta get you. We can't get you back at 21.
Right.
So Lee, I love everything. So are we in your studio? Because I saw Sade back there, and
Oh yeah, that's the new compilation that she came out with of all of her albums in one box set.
Yes.
And I just
I could look like
her fiance. But yeah, this is my cocoon. This is kind of where, like, I just create music. I do all my work daily. I spend like most of my life in this room, especially since COVID has been happening.
Yeah.
So I have my turntables in here. I have my studio recording equipment. I've got, all my computers, all my business stuff. So everything I need to do, I can kind of do from here. But I think what I'm doing moving forward, there's a couple of different projects I'm working on. And, a lot of them are digital, because we just, I'm the producer of the Silver Room Block Party.
Oh, that's
Last year we had upwards of 50,000 people. And so obviously we couldn't do that this year. So, and then a lot of other festivals like Chosen Few, they did like the virtual festival. But we kind of didn't want to do that, because we missed the in-person vibe so much. So what we decided to do is a 12-part series where we are going to tape performances and interviews of artists that would have performed at Silver Room Block Party. And so we're in the middle of that. Actually, the first episode will be released next Wednesday, I believe. And you'll be seeing all the social media stuff about that coming out. So we've been taping that, and we've been doing it with like skeleton crews, really safe social distancing measures. And that's kind of what we're doing moving forward. I'm doing a lot of that, a lot of projects like that, just for the time being, and kind of keeping things going until we're able to really get back out there. And because it's hard to do certain events that I'm associated with.
Yeah.
You can't do 50 people or 100 people because thousands of people will show up.
I know. I was over here. I'm sorry. I was looking down. I was over here making sure. I was like, let me just make sure a couple of things. You guys, I mean, here's what's deep. Like every one of you has created an event that I've been at that I've just been like, I'm not from Chicago. I always give Chicago a lot of props. I give Chicago a lot of props. I'm from the Bay Area. I moved here from New York 11 years ago. And this city, I cannot leave it. I mean, I remember the Silver Room Block Party. Oh, everybody would be talking about it. Woo, the experience. But I mean, just going and my mom was a jazz singer. I grew up around music. I'm a producer. I mean, I love to be and have around me all kinds of creatives, right? So I'm fortunate to have the job that I have. But when I'm sitting here listening to you guys, it's just mind blowing, right? Because you have curated some of the most world-renowned, thought of events. Not only in this city produces the most summer festivals in the world. Like when I was told that, I was like, that's true, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm just going to go for a walk on a Saturday. And then up in Wicker Park, there's a street festival. Oh, I'm just going to go Pilsen. And then there's Oktoberfest and there's all of these things. So I really, when there was Off Fest, I was there.
Good.
Oh, please. Mean. So, I mean, one of the things that I'm celebrating in this moment right now and shouting you guys out like this is that so many talented people come from Chicago and leave us to go to the coast, right? Whether it's music, film, directors, writers, producers, fashion. I just had this beautiful model tell me that they're trying to get her to go to New York or LA and we're trying to keep her here. Part of the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship was designed to retain talent, to be able to develop a music library so that our ad agencies don't take that $15+ million and let it go to the coast. And so, I am so grateful that you guys are here, that you're in Chicago. You literally curate the culture here. And it is now, you've brought a light to the city and to the government to say, this is a viable stream of revenue and part of the creative economy that just didn't even have a platform till you brought it to their attention, Juan, right?
Yeah.
And now David being able to be in the city and make sure that, these programs are represented citywide. Lee Farmer, all that you do. You also, your name, I know you must know Tari Teray and Jay Ivy.
That's my family.
I know.
That's family.
But it's so funny because, when you were put on this panel, I'm like, no, Juan, David, I know what you've done, but I'm like, have I met Lee? I've heard your name so much, like in conversation. So yeah, that is family. So
I love Jay and Tari. That's literally my family.
Yeah. So, we here in Chicago, I believe, are a family, and it is so important and so integral to who we are as individuals, the spirit that makes us dance through our day, to have people like you continuing to curate, whether it's virtual or live. It all matters. So anything else you want to say to our audience before we hit our weekend?
I would say log on to DECO, where you can go for the disruption of service and fill out that application. For anyone that's not in a venue, they have $60 million under the priority first is what it's called, priority business. You can actually fill that out, and don't worry, they'll all they're gonna do is, if you're 1099, all they're gonna do is ask you for like a couple invoices from a production or event that you did, that you invoiced someone. So you're now able to qualify. So if you're a DJ, makeup artist, you can get between $10,000 to $20,000. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would just say make sure that you get out and vote. You got nothing to lose.
That's right.
The more we get the right people in office, the more they're going to take care of us and make sure that we're part of their plan. And you got nothing to lose. Just go out and vote and tell your friends, take your family, just do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what, building on what David said, make sure you vote in all of your local elections. I mean, the presidential election is very serious, but please vote in the local elections because that is what affects you on a day-to-day basis. And also do your research on the judges and make sure that you vote correctly for these judges because there's a lot of judges that are not good for our community. So let's make sure we do the research and figure that out. Also, I want to put in a plug live at Mariano's, virtual tonight. We have Megan McNeil, who is an amazing vocalist. You may have seen her in a she had this viral moment where she was on the train with Corey Wilkes playing trumpet, and there was millions of views on the internet. So if you type in her name, you'll see that. And she also has a really dope record out with Terry Hunter right now. So check that out. It's on the Mariano's Facebook page today at 6 p.m.
That's awesome. I absolutely, everybody be sure to check that out. And, you know, I just want to say thank you. My heart is touched. I'm filled with joy. I want to invite each one of you, and I'll do so in an email as well, to join us in a couple of weeks where we've launched our Diversify Scholarship Program, where we've awarded 12 creative entrepreneurs full scholarship for 1 year at 2112 and providing them all of the resources that come with it. So it's awesome. People like you, all of you, who really, really keep the city moving and thriving and dancing and singing and all the good things. So have a great weekend and just keep that joy in your heart. We need you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Lee.
Bye.
Thank you, David. And thank you, Juan Teague. Wow. You guys, listen, I got to tell you, my heart is full because this city has some of the most talented individuals. A lot of the times we see the musicians and we see the movies or we see the dance or we see the theater. We see the outward show of talent. These are the individuals who are curating and who are making these narratives come to life in the background. And so every role in the creative industry counts. And if you have an interest in any form of music, dance, theater, film, video, design, media technology, culinary arts, sports tech, gamification, check us out, the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, because although there is no real supply chain in our industry, we are doing our best to create a pipeline to success through the creative economy so that so many more of us can thrive and survive with joyful hearts. I'm Sadia Davis. Enjoy your day. Oh, one other thing. Next week, we are so proud to share 4 shorts live at 2112, and we'll provide a virtual link as well. These are 4 filmmakers who we're premiering their shorts. We're doing it privately, so you won't see it live because several of them are applying to film festivals. So again, we are here to promote and to amplify your success. Thank you. Have a good weekend.